Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mark Headley. Welcome to another episode of Mark and Mitch Make a Scientology Film. Let's get Mitch in here. There he is.
Hey,
there
Mark.
we go.
Hi, guys.
Hey Mitch, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. It's good.
Awesome.
I'm particularly excited about this film. This was the first film we shot when we got into the big studio.
That's right. This Scientology internal film was called TR5 YTRs.
Right.
And you're right. We built up until this point. We were shooting at Golden Era Productions. We were shooting in a tiny studio called the Gym, which was a really, really small. It was really not even as big as a standard TV studio. It was very, very small. And then we were shooting at that Air Force base called the Norton Air Force Base near Ontario. And then we were shooting. We built during that whole time in the late 90s. We were building this big, giant building at the international headquarters of Scientology. Called the Cine Castle, the Cinematography Castle. And the castle was probably about
the studio itself was 22,000 square feet. The building itself was about 85,000. Okay. So
yeah, I mean, the studio was about 200, I think it was about 200 yards long and about 100 yards wide.
Yeah, it was pretty big. And it was, and as equally as important, it was 60 feet. What they call the grid or the greens up to where you hung lights from.
Yeah, and it was a free span sound stage, so there were no pillars. It was a steel structure, so the entire studio had no supports in the middle of the studio. So you could set up a lot of small sets, and you could certainly set up 2 or 3 really, really big sets. And then also it had a hard
or one ginormous set, which is what we did on.
That's right. In the studio, one corner of the studio was a hard what's called a cyclorama or a cyc wall. And it's one of these ones that excuse me, that goes from the floor and then it graduates into the wall, and it's just a continuous surface.
Yeah.
And we painted that. I want to say we painted that blue. It was a big kerfluffle over whether we would have it as a green screen or we would have it as a blue screen.
Right.
And I can't remember. I think we actually ended up having it green for Isaac because when you're shooting with black people, they have a lot of blue or purple in their skin tones in their skin. And if you shoot them against blue, then it's really a nightmare with the lighting. So I want to say we did a blue screen, but I think we did a green screen with Isaac.
Yeah, no, 100%. I have some pictures when it was actually from the second time we shot it, but you can see
and it was green. Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. And they used to tout it as the biggest green screen at any studio in Southern California, which...
Well, I made that up, so I don't know that. I was the one who would do the tours of the studio when we first built it. So I was like, it's the largest free span soundstage in, I used to say in California, and then one of the largest in the United States is what I would say.
I used to say in North America.
But it was all just... It was like we knew we'd been to other big stages, and it was bigger than those. So we were like, yeah, it's one of the biggest.
In all fairness, it was in the top 20%. But you're talking about measuring it against studios like Warner Brothers that had 15 stages that were close to that size, and then a few that were bigger. And so it was
sort of silly that we had the biggest, but we only had one.
We also didn't have the green screen. We almost didn't have the cyclorama because the audio department was convinced that it would ruin the sound. Because they didn't realize that you don't actually record sound in the studio. You record sound in a set in the studio. So I had to fight for that thing.
I remember. It was such a nightmare. Building this thing. There might actually be another video that I'll do about the construction of this with the construction people that were there at the international headquarters. But not only did it take many, many years longer than they planned it to take, it cost millions and millions of dollars more than they thought. And there was even one single incident of a contractor that was working on the studios. I want to say one single contractor stole over $300,000. Just that was one. And there were other things that happened. There was, oh my God, it was a shit show building this thing. But regardless, this film, TR5YTRs, was the very first film that we shot in this studio.
And it was us proving that we could use a studio that size, because on the first film, we shot against the green screen. We used every square inch of it. It was like, there was, could you imagine if we had shot a small film inside there? We would have all been like toast. Like
we would, yeah. No, we had. So for this film, there's a space platform. The narrator of the film narrates it from a platform, a circular platform that's just in space. It has its own atmosphere. It has its own gravity.
Magically, it's fine.
Yeah, and it's not in anything. It's just it's just like if you had it was a space patio. That's essentially what it was. It was just a remote space patio.
It was a hangout in space.
Yeah, and it had its own oxygen, and it had gravity, and it had I guess it had light as well.
Yeah, no, it was some future technology that we know nothing about. I just remembered, I watched your last Spy Files. Our dear friend Eric Spicer, he worked on the special effects on this film.
He did. Well, it's because we had green screen that automatically made every single shot that we shot against a green screen, that made it a special effects shot, which means we got extra points for it.
Yeah, I think they're still counting the points from that film.
But what's funny is that you want to talk about who got cast as the main narrator of the film?
Oh, yeah. I think
and
it's
how
of
that
interest.
came to be.
Yeah, I think that's very, very interesting. First, I like to just mention one thing about the message of the film. Get into the cast. So you have to understand the basic message of this film is, the premise of the film is that a 15-year-old kid, white kid, because everybody in Scientology is white, pretty much, except for us kids. He dies, drops the body. He picks up another body on another planet, a primitive planet that doesn't have Scientology. And the whole message of the film is that if you don't learn your Scientology now, you might die and come back on a planet without Scientology, and you will be expected to get Scientology going on that planet, and you won't know what you're doing. So you need to spend your time and your money right now during this lifetime, making sure that this doesn't happen to you, right?
Yeah, and not only do you need to know it, you need to know it so well that whatever you do end up remembering in your next lifetime, you need to know it so well that whatever little you remember, you'll still be able to start Scientology on a whole nother planet from scratch.
Yeah, he helped them to build an e-meter.
Yes.
He taught how to do T-auras, and he gave lectures on Scientology. He taught them how to do assists, like touch assists, feel my finger, which I can't remember what it was in the alien language that we created, but people would say it would be like whatever that was. People would actually say that.
Yeah, that was the other thing that Mitch worked with the talent department, and there was a book. Was it a book that was written about how they created the Star Trek language?
It wasn't Star Trek. It was another video game. I can't remember the name of it. It was a very popular video game back in the 90s, and it took place on a very sort of arboreal civilization, kind of a Tolkien-esque, but on another planet. And they had developed that the authors of the game had worked out a basic language. So I read that and I realized, well, this is too much work. But based on that, we worked out about 200 sounds. I'm going to back up a second, because what Hubbard wrote in the script was, they're speaking an alien language, but you can't hear them. And he would often write these things that were like, make your head spin. They were impossible. Well, how would you know it's an alien language if you can't hear them?
Yeah.
But it says he's speaking in an alien language. Therefore, you have to project that. You have to get that message across. So it's crazy. And you can't just say to Miscavige or whoever, oh, this is just crazy, I'm not going to do it that way. You have to. So, I created this language And then I said, okay, which way do you want it? Do you want to hear them or not hear them? Then when they see it, they're like, oh yeah, we want to hear them. So, but you can't ahead of time say that, no, that'll never work. You have to
Yeah, and
show.
that's right. And I think, and from what I remember, at least on the first one, the narrator would do his spiel, and then we'd cut away to the kid training the
Right.
people, and
That's
the
right.
narrator's VO would still be playing over that,
That's
and
right.
you'd hear that language sort of in the background of the
And
narrator
it may
track.
fade out or you hear it very low, but
Yeah.
90% of all of the dialogue in the film is either Isaac's narration or Isaac on camera. And then there'd
Yes.
just be little clips of an exchange and some gobbledygook,
That's
you
right. They'd be
know.
like, it was like it was like Chaka from Land of the Lost. He'd be like, "Ooga ta ta ta," and you'd
Exactly.
be like, "Okay." And that was the best one, is because even sometimes the kid would mess up in the alien language.
It
He'd
didn't
fumble the
matter.
line,
Yeah.
and the talent people would be like, "Oh, he didn't say that." I'd be like, "No one
Yeah,
fucking
it doesn't
cares."
matter.
Okay,
Yeah,
it
like
doesn't.
no, not once did an actor say, "Oh, I went up on my line," because they
Yeah,
just made some stuff up and
yeah.
just
He
kept
wasn't like
going.
boom chakalaka, boom chakalaka, and they're like, "Oh no, it's boom chakalaka boom," and you're like, "No,
Yeah,
no, it's fine. We don't care.
right,
Like, okay."
right. But it was very convincing. I wish I had a recording of it because it was really convincing.
Yeah, and so
So
everyone who had any sort of line in the film would have to practice the alien language, and
right,
most people only had a line or two. The
yeah,
kid had maybe 20 or 30 lines that he'd
yeah.
have to
He
interact with.
had yeah he had to do like public lectures where he might go on for 15 or 20 seconds
Yeah,
before then the narration would come in. And so yeah, the narrator was played by Isaac Hayes. Oh, I think we might want to.
yeah. You want
I
to put
don't know
that
that
up?
everybody knows anymore who Isaac Hayes is. I think we probably here. Let me just. We probably there you go. This is Isaac Hayes. He was in this film with Nicolas Cage and Bridget Fonda called "It Could Happen to You." This was a few years before we made this film with Isaac.
Yeah,
And in the film, he plays the guy at the corner who sells newspapers in a stand, like in Manhattan. His name is Angel something, and he's actually an angel, and he's the one who narrates this film.
nice.
Occasionally, he comes in and he tells stories, but he's acting behind the scenes as like a supernatural force making the story happen. So really lovely romantic comedy. If you've never seen it, it's worth watching. And I'd seen this film and I was really impressed with Isaac's performance. And then when I got a hold of this script, I was like, hey, we're going to make this movie or this film. We don't call them movies. Uh, Movies are what people watch when they eat popcorn. At least this is way
Yes.
more serious. Uh, Remember, you gotta get in trouble for calling it a movie. People look at you like, I said a movie, that's a film.
That's right. It actually was, that was a real thing. If you called a
Yeah,
Scientology film
movie.
a movie, it was sort of
Yeah,
like disrespecting the film. This is
yeah,
L. Ron Hubbard's technology,
yeah.
and it was
If you
just
call
like,
it a
okay,
video, it was even worse. But
yeah. But either way, when
yeah,
we,
I really liked his performance, and so when I got the script,
yeah,
I thought, oh, this, the script described this guy as a wise old spaceman with a white beard and white hair, kind of like Gandalf without a hat, like an old
yeah,
wizardy kind of guy. And I thought, I just met Isaac, and I remembered this film, and I went, oh, let's do Isaac. That would be so much. That would just be cool to have this wise old spaceman being played by, Black Moses, and like Isaac was just beloved individual, an Oscar-winning singer-songwriter, and he'd acted in probably 20 or 30 films. As a matter of fact, that's how he got into Scientology.
yeah. And I was going to say, at this time, um, we hadn't really shot with a lot of black actors in
No,
Scientology, and specifically in the films. We had Michael D. Roberts, and then whatever int base staff would play little
right.
background or
In
just
terms of real actors, I mean, the only
yeah,
two was Isaac and Michael.
yeah. And so, and David Miscavige during this time was making a definite effort to show the black community that there were black Scientologists and there were black celebrities in this thing. So, I mean, Mitch could do no wrong suggesting that Isaac play this main
Yeah,
part.
yeah,
It was just like,
yeah,
oh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Also, I just want to add to that essentially what was happening is that Scientology was becoming so hated amongst white culture that Miscavige was looking for white American culture, that he was looking for other types of communities, to introduce Scientology to, because he thought they were less PTS. Like he wanted to open Russia and China, because he felt that these other countries' reputational function, the reputational negativity of Scientology hadn't caught up with us yet. So he was starting to go after the black folks, and I unwittingly I helped him do that.
Yeah. So Isaac was the main actor,
Right.
the narrator.
Right.
And then the kid who's born on this other planet, that actor, and the first time we shot this was played by a Scientology child actor named Johnny Lewis. And Johnny Lewis, I mean, we shot this around the 2000, like around 2000 or 1999.
Yeah, I think we shot it
2000.
in 1999. I think it was 2000.
Yeah, so I think
Johnny he was 15.
Yeah, 15 or 16. Whenever we shot
Yeah.
it, I know he was, he was a teenager, regardless if he was 15 or 16 or 17.
We've done a couple of things with him. He was a terrifically talented young man.
And then he actually went on, not related to Jeffrey Lewis or Juliette Lewis.
No.
His mother and father were people, were Scientologists that they got people into Scientology. They kind of did.
They were professional Scientologists.
Yeah, they did introductory auditing and counseling with people, and then they would get them in to Scientology. And
I think his mom ran a school. Isn't that right? Did she run one of the Scientology schools for a while?
I think she either did tutoring at one of those schools or worked at one of those schools.
Wasn't she the Lewis Carroll?
She may have been. I didn't know a lot about his mom. I knew his dad did these seminars at the Celebrity Center on how to get people in, or how to land commercials, or how to have a successful family. Oddly enough, Johnny ended up kind of not doing a lot in Scientology, really, but he grew up in it, and then he became a professional actor, and he was on TV shows and did films, and I think he ended up getting a part on Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah, he was one of the co-stars of Sons of Anarchy. He was actually one of the favorite characters on there. In terms of the fan base, they loved Johnny Lewis. I mean, he was...
Yeah. And then he ended up having... he had a motorcycle accident, and after the motorcycle accident, it just went from bad to worse very quickly. He ended up having mental issues and getting arrested multiple times, and every time he would get arrested, I think it was usually because he was either breaking into somebody's house. I think the first time after the motorcycle accident, he broke into somebody's house, and the person whose house he broke into almost beat him to death. And then they thought he was on drugs. He had no drugs in his system. I want to say that every single time he got arrested for assault or one of these episodes, they assumed that he was on drugs, and he wasn't, and then he ended up unaliving himself and his landlord in his Hollywood.
Landlady. Yeah, it was really a tragedy. His landlady, who was actually very well known in the actor community in Hollywood.
Yeah.
She had rented a living space to a lot of
like bungalows to writers and actors.
Yeah,
in
to
LA.
later. I mean, these are people that later became successful, and so she was a very well-known, liked person. And unfortunately, Danny Johnny, Danny. I mean, they were about. I guess Danny was older than Johnny.
Yeah,
but
either way, he played the main character in this film.
Did a great job, I must say. He was
besides the narrator, and he was great. And also, he was a kid when we were shooting with him, and he was. I think he'd done some commercials or something like that at that point, or been some bit parts here and there. And he'd been in tons of stuff we did. We would use him as like a like someone being counseled, or just a good looking. He was a good looking white kid. So
yeah, he was one of the golden era players.
Yeah, golden era players. That's exactly what we should call them from now on.
Yeah.
The golden era players.
We should start
Jim
collecting
Eskeman.
photos
Tate Rupert. Yeah, we're gonna show.
Yeah.
Let's
And
do that
don't
for the next
forget-
video. We'll
Yeah,
get
the
together
Golden
a,
Era player.
little slide, a deck,
Yeah.
a slide
and
deck.
don't forget, we had Jen Elfman did a couple of things with us. We put her in there.
Before
we had-
before Dave told us she looked like
Yeah. Yeah. What's her
the girl
name?
from The Exorcist, Linda Blair.
Linda
Before
Blair.
he
And
said
then
she
we
looked
had,
like Linda
hold on,
Blair.
who else? We had a bunch of people. We had Bonnie's sister. We almost had Bonnie, but it just the timing never worked out. So yeah, we should
we
put
had
them all up.
Marissa Ribisi. We did use his
Right.
sister,
Right.
and then
right.
we did. We I don't think we ever did anything with Kirsty. We never did anything.
We did some interviews with. Kirsty,
Yeah,
but
that's
not-
true.
that's
Never any
different.
film. We didn't ever roll
No,
film on her. I
no.
don't think.
We interviewed her and Travolta and a bunch of people, but that's a different thing. I
Yeah.
will think of more. I know Mike
We will.
Fairman, very good actor. Jason
Michael
Begay.
Yeah, Jason, Tate
Jason,
Rupert,
right.
Jim Eskerman,
Right.
Kelly
And
Daniels.
then
Yeah,
what's her name?
Denise
I can't
Duff.
I can't think of it. Denise's friend, the soap opera actress.
Michelle Stafford.
Michelle Stafford.
We did shoot a
Michelle-
lot with her, videos
Yeah.
with her in the early days.
Yeah,
She was I think she
Michelle-
did Dianetics how-to stuff.
No, she didn't do that. But maybe she did the first one. Or no, that was Lee Purcell. Oh, Lee Purcell.
Lee Purcell. That
Right,
was
Lee
her name.
Purcell.
So somebody sent me a link to the Dianetics how-to video.
The first
And-
one from 92.
Yeah, the very first one. And Lee
starring
Purcell is
Purcell.
the star of that one for
Yeah,
sure.
she's a thing about Lee Purcell. She's one of the people I spoke about, was referring to the other day. I did a short from a thing I did with Karen De La Carey about why so many Scientologist actors don't make it, because
Yeah.
they put so much attention on Scientology and they spend so much money that they sort of forgot their careers. And Lee Purcell is a perfect example. Lee Purcell was the female lead in John Milius's Big Wednesday, which is an amazing film that everybody should watch this weekend.
yeah.
I mean, this film, I can tell you stories about this film endlessly, but she's the female lead. She's literally the emotional center of this, of John Milius's first, this is the guy who wrote Apocalypse Now, and
Yeah.
he did Red Dawn and all these great films. And she's amazing. She's the emotional center of Big Wednesday. She's an incredible actress. And she just, I don't know what happened to her, but a big shout out to Lee Purcell. I hope you're doing okay. So
Yeah. Okay, so then do you want to show some of the pictures? That's sort of we've set up the story of the film.
Yeah, but there's one other story that we talked about that we should relay. It's like when I didn't know what Isaac's current circumstances were when we cast him in the film. I heard he's living in New York. I didn't know
Oh, that's
that,
right.
that he was living in New York, not just living in New York, but he had a radio show that was like the most popular radio show in New York. And he did the show every day, Monday through Friday.
That's
he
right.
said, I'd love to do the film, but I'm only free on weekends. And we were like, that's cool, we'll shoot it on weekends. And I was like, no, I don't get to go home. So, anyway,
Well, also because we had to put that giant set in the studio,
right.
we could only shoot other sets in the other direction or
Right.
not near that psych wall.
Right. And we had
So
to
we ended
leave
up
it.
having to kind of do a bunch of smaller sets that we'd shoot during the week
Right.
and then have everything ready Friday night
Right.
so that the second that Isaac showed up on Saturday, then we could just start rolling. But unfortunately, whenever Isaac would get there, we'd have these pages and pages of dialogue that he needed to do that
Right.
was written by L. Ron Hubbard. And the
Right.
way, this flowery kind of weird prose way that L. Ron Hubbard wrote the dialogue for Isaac, it was so unnatural for him to read these words
Yeah,
in
it
this
was just like
arrangement
a
that we
classic
would
culture.
we would have to make each. It was really weird because you have to shoot exactly. You cannot alter the L. Ron Hubbard dialogue.
Right.
That's sort of that would be a crime for us.
Oh, yeah.
As
If
a
the
Sea Org
script-
members.
If there's a contraction, it is, you cannot say it's. You cannot make a contraction out of two words.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So Isaac would do the whole
cut-
thing perfect. but he'd say an it's instead of an it is, or he'd say a let's instead of let us, and then it would be like that. No, cut. We got to and this was the weird thing because, you have Mitch. Mitch is essentially he's the boss of the film team. But at the same time, if a person on the film team, they're responsible, like the sound guy's responsible for the sound, and the script, what we called a script supervisor, was in charge of if it says, let us see what we're talking about, and he says, let's, then the script supervisor, sometimes the person who was the script supervisor, she would just yell, cut, just like, cut.
Yeah, which is completely, even on a Scientology set, is illegal because the only two people, it says it's mandated. It's like in Hollywood, but it's an unspoken rule. The only two people that can yell cut is an assistant director or the director. Nobody else is allowed to yell cut.
Yeah.
I mean, in Hollywood, so you would just be fired for doing it.
That's right. So every once in a while, somebody would do
they
that.
Can help themselves.
Yeah, like a sound guy would be like, cut, it was it. And if you're not the sound guy and you understand how film works and how takes work and all this, if we say the wrong part on the first part of the shot, the second part of the shot could still be usable if we cut to it, or if we just use the VO track, or if we need it, we can still use it. You don't have to cut because your department, but L. Ron Hubbard says that each person, and if you don't cut, there's a weird thing where he kind of sets it up.
Everybody's made, it's like the what did you do to pull it in thing. Everybody is made to be responsible. It's really hard to direct there, because everybody is so responsible, as opposed to having one person that says, okay, here's where we're at, here's what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. It's really like the credit for the film says produced and directed by Golden Era Productions.
Yeah, and there's no other credits.
Well,
besides L. Ron Hubbard, written screenplay by L. Ron Hubbard, written by L. Ron Hubbard, produced and directed by Golden Era Productions.
Yeah, and sometimes it would say musical score by L. Ron Hubbard.
Yes, musical score by L. Ron Hubbard, and then music produced, or no, they wouldn't even say the music; they would just say produced and directed by Golden Era, and that's just everything else.
Right. Yeah.
No credits. Nobody. No, there's no costumes, actors, wardrobe, talent. No one has a credit. So, but what ended up happening was we had these shots where we're like, okay, this paragraph's a shot, this paragraph's a shot, this paragraph, and we couldn't do that anymore. So we had to break every single sentence into its own shot, because that's the only way. We couldn't gang up sentences for Isaac to do. And we wouldn't stop rolling. He would say it wrong, and we'd go, do it again, or we'd read the line back to him and have him just read it back. And what we planned to shoot in a weekend took us, I think, 3 or 4 weekends to shoot with Isaac, maybe even more. I can't remember how many times he ended up coming back, but it was way more than we had planned.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember how many it was. All I know is one of those weekends was on my birthday. And I was really mad about that because I didn't get to go home and I had to shoot. I've done that in the past a number of times for some reason.
Wah.
Yeah, I know. I know. That sounds horrible, doesn't it? But, when you've got little kids, when you have little kids and they're like, Daddy, are you coming for your birthday? Okay, never mind. Okay.
I dig it. I couldn't imagine when I was there, Mitch, there was so many times where I had like a crisis of faith, and like, I need Mitch to stay here, but I know he has a wife and 2 children, and they don't see him until the weekend. And if he doesn't go on the weekend, they don't see him at all.
Okay, but listen, I wasn't upset. The thing that upset me was not that it was my birthday. I think my former wife and my children. Yeah. I think they came up. What really upset me was that the crew arranged with Isaac in his costume at dinner time. They all marched into the dining room where I was, and he sang me happy birthday. He almost sat me in his lap. It was the most amazing thing to have Isaac sing you happy birthday. And I'm looking around, nobody's got a camera, nobody's videoing it. There's nothing. It's just like never happened. So that's what I'm pissed. Pissed off about that.
That is, there were a lot of things that happened at that property that it would have been amazing if we had cameras rolling.
And usually things like that, they'd want a video. They'd want it for PR reasons, just internal PR. Miscavige would love to see that. Oh, look, Isaac's seeing the director. happy birthday or something. But it's like, what? I wasted 3 years of my career and I didn't even get a photo of Isaac Hayes. What? Anyway, so yeah. But when you mentioned that he couldn't do his lines, it's not because we didn't try to rehearse them. And remember how we got him? I mean, how did he remember how we got from New York to L.A. every week?
Oh yeah, so Tommy Davis would fly to New York.
What would Tommy who? A lot of people don't know who he was.
Tommy Davis, at the time, he was sort of like the seniors in Scientology. They have a place called the Celebrity Center, and the Celebrity Center is located in Hollywood, California,
Right.
and that's the place that's responsible for recruiting celebrities into Scientology.
Right, and and
Tommy
friends
Davis,
and their family and their agents, and
anybody in the industry who might have something to do with Hollywood is considered public Scientologist of Celebrity Center. If they
or
can
it could
get
be sports, it could be business. If you were like a rich
That's
business
true.
guy.
Any opinion leader in the arts or entertainment or you're right. It could be if they're well known, even if they're just have some celebrity of any faction.
Yeah, if in other words, if you weren't just a garden variety schmuck, you could be public as celebrities.
Yeah. So Tommy Davis is the son of Ann Archer, who is a very famous actress, and also a Scientologist. And she was in what's that movie with Michael Douglas?
Oh yes, the one with Sharon Stone.
Fatal Attraction. Ann Archer was the wife in Fatal Attraction. The one with
she's an Oscar-nominated actress.
The one with Michael Douglas and Glenn Close. The one where Michael Douglas has an affair, and then Glenn Close is just a couple sandwiches short of a picnic and comes after Michael Douglas and his wife, played by Ann Archer. So she was Tommy Davis was her son. I can't remember his dad's name, something Davis.
Oh yeah, he was. You mean his stepdad or his real father?
His real dad was like in the financial.
A billionaire.
He's had a big, I think, hedge fund or Wall Street or something like that. Financial guru, Dr. Big Bucks. And then Ann Archer ended up marrying Terry Jastrow, a very famous golf celebrity kind of producer friend.
He was like
Nicholas,
a multi Emmy award winning sports producer, I think, for ABC, and his specialty was golf, and he did a lot of that stuff. Yeah,
so they were both in Scientology. Tommy Davis was Ann's son, and he joined the Sea Org, I want to say, in his teens, like 15, 16.
No. He was 2 years in Columbia College. It was a huge flop. He was at Columbia in New York.
Okay.
2 years in, he quit, and his father was like, blah, his head like exploded, like.
And so he escaped that to go live with Ann.
Yeah. I mean, he was in one of the best colleges in America, and he's just he's just groomed to be like, a super successful, financially secure, son of a movie star and a hedge fund manager, and he quits to go and be like a celebrity wrangler at Celebrity Center. Like that was really his job.
So he was probably 19 or 20 actually when he.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, 2 years into college, you'd be like.
Yeah. 19. So when he was younger, he used to do services at the Beverly Hills Mission, and. So Claire's father.
That place was a hotbed of controversy.
Well, yes, and Claire's father was the executive director of the Beverly Hills Mission, and she would go there and do Scientology stuff too. And Tommy Davis would be there when she would be there.
So she knew Tommy
when he was a young teenager. And one of the things that came up, and I always remember this, is that he had dabbled in marijuana.
Oh my God!
As a teenager, and that is a disqualification to be in Religious Technology Center. If you are in Scientology and then you do drugs, it's called being a drug revert, and and you can't be a drug revert if you want to go into Religious Technology Center.
Right.
And so there was a long period of time where Tommy Davis was that now he he's in the Sea Org. He becomes a Celebrity Center Sea Org member, and then he starts handling these high-level celebrities. And it's like it's a natural sort of progression that you would end up in Religious Technology Center and then do that job from there. And the reason I was told,
really pretty. He was really pretty.
Yeah, he was very personable, is what we called it in Sea Org.
and Miscavige liked to decorate. He liked decorative staff. Right, he liked ornamental staff. Is what, and so Tommy was perfect for that.
Yeah, and Tommy,
he can introduce him as this is Tommy Davis, Ann Archer's kid. Did you know she was nominated for an Oscar? Like whatever bullshit. He threw out like that was his thing. Sorry, Mark, I got patched.
No, it's good. And also Tommy Davis, because his parents were wealthy. By proxy, he was wealthy. So he was in the Sea Org member, but he was independently. He drove a BMW.
Yeah. Oh, no, he didn't drive
he had
a
BMW.
15. He drove like $150,000 BMW.
Mitch is like, I had a 7 Series. Tommy had the best one of whatever I had.
Yeah, well, it was only when I had little kids because my wife said it was a safe car, and I drive 200 miles a week, okay?
Anyway, but regardless,
Tommy was insanely rich. Yeah.
He was walking around with a watch that would be 5 years of Sea Org wages.
Yeah.
Well, a watch. That's how much to wear the watch Tommy Davis wore. I'd have to save up as a Sea Org member for 5 years and not spend a penny to get that watch. So
and eventually he became the international spokesman and foot in mouth in charge of the Church of Scientology. This guy
we called him the Foot Bullet, Mr. Foot Bullet. Yeah. That's actually what we called him on the outside. We'd say, hey, did Mr. Foot Bullet, is Mr. Foot Bullet going to be on something? Wow, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So, yes. So that's Tommy Davis. So Tommy Davis would fly to New York, pick up Isaac. On Friday
morning, he'd fly to New York.
I think they would fly in the red. They would fly back.
Fly back on a red eye,
and then
But on the way back, he'd drill his lines. I always wondered what that was like. Nonstop, you've got like whatever 4 or 5 hour flight, and you've got Tommy Davis sitting next to you, making you do your lines for. I mean, come on, give the guy a break. So by the time Isaac got to us, he was just fried because he'd been.
Well, also, he never knew his lines. At least whatever he knew, he would fumble. So it's almost like we would be like, we're here to shoot, and Isaac's got to get his lines done. And the person that's been assigned to get Isaac through his lines is Tommy. And Tommy's like, hey, we got to go. We got to do this. We got to do this. It's like, hey, bitch, your one job was to have this guy ready. He ain't ever been ready anytime he's ever come here. So what are you doing? Like, he was sort of like, and also Tommy just hung out while we were working. So it wasn't like he was doing anything. He was just kind of sitting around on his phone, or he'd go in the lounge, and it would sort of be like, you had one job, dude, and you didn't do it at all. And so don't kind of tell us like, hey, we got to hurry up. Isaac's got to leave in this amount of time. Be like, dude, the reason it's taking forever is because of you. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's 100% true.
You want to show some of these pics now? Or is there anything else we need to set up? I mean, that's pretty much.
I don't know if you still have it. I have it somewhere, but
what?
We
it's
did
right here.
find that. Yeah, but no, we found that one little piece of video of Isaac on the space platform. It was in that little sequence from the Gold video.
Oh yeah, I don't know where that is, but
it's
in that it's in the video that you did on your channel. But if you want to look, there's a shot, and we've showed it before. There's a shot of Isaac on the space patio.
Yeah, the space patio. So here's a shot. This is I had to sneak these with my cell phone because they don't allow cameras on the set. So this is one of the few little groups of shots I have. You can see the blue screen. You can see our like fake rock set. It looked pretty
green screen in this case. It is a green screen.
Yeah, green screen. Right. What the hell am I saying? So,
and these people are dressed like this is the timeless. The uniforms for this were timeless. Oh look,
that's because you did this.
I did quotes, and then they're like, yeah, that's two peace signs. That equals balloons. Yeah. Anyway, these were the timeless uniforms, and I guess this is what the costumes department interpreted.
this thing had a kind of a steampunk motif, which
Yes.
was weird because it was supposed to be a kind of primitive planet with just enough technology that maybe they could whip together an e-meter.
Yes.
And these were a
Yeah.
couple of soldiers. Uh, these were the guys. One of them gave the other one a touch of this. Apparently, they had wars on this planet because all of a sudden, in the middle of the planet, of the middle of the movie, there's like explosions in the background, and there's these two guys. One of them's injured behind a rock, and the other one's giving him assist. It kind of didn't make a lot of sense, but I went with it. This is the kid. This is the kid who actually replaced Johnny Lewis after Johnny's tragic
He looks like
demise.
Johnny a little bit too.
Yeah, he does, and he's wearing a very similar costume, same color,
Yeah.
and the environment is kind of intended to be like post-apocalyptic, like a society that's coming up after a post-apocalyptic event. You have to create layers and layers of history if you're going to make a film. It needs to have everything needs to have a backstory, even the environment. So if it's supposed to take place in a semi-primitive or semi-mechanistic society on some other planet, you have to envision its future. I'm sorry, its past. Like you have to kind of be a little bit of an archaeologist. So a lot of the film takes place in ruins or in structures that were made from previous levels of technology. You
Yes.
get kind of into this shit. So
I
that's
also remember when we shot this because David Miscavige has asthma. And
right,
so
right.
whenever he would come, when we were
Yeah, we
getting
used
this,
a lot of smoke. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
well, when
I
we
got
were getting the
excited.
studio ready, he would come down. It was as the structure was being built, it was just sand or dirt in the middle of the studio, and only when the entire structure was built did they finish the concrete because they didn't want the concrete to be damaged by steel or heavy equipment
Right.
driving around in there. So the entire building was built. The very last thing we did was pour the concrete in the middle of the studio. So
Right.
there was dust and dirt all up in the rafters and the grid and on the walls and on the fabric. And so every single time David Miscavige would come to the studio, he would walk in and go, "Nope, it's too dirty in here," and he would leave. And we would always be like, "How does he know it's dirty in here?" Well, it's because
Says the man with asthma.
he had asthma. So if there was a lot of particulate in the air, dirt or dust particulate in the air, he was very, very sensitive to it. So we had to white glove the studio, white glove the studio, white glove. We kept having to clean and clean and clean. I think we vacuumed for like 2 months to get all the dirt and dust. And we had to use these special L. Ron Hubbard recommended vacuums that are called rainbows that have water
Oh
in them.
my
So the
God, I
dirt goes
forgot
through
about
the
that.
water and it doesn't then blow dirt back out the exhaust of it was a whole thing. Trust me. Anyway, so then when we went to go shoot this film, it's all like post-apocalyptic. So we have to bring all these sets in there, and then we have to dump dirt and sand on
Yeah,
everything.
I shot with smoke a lot. I mean, if you look at this photo, you'll see
Well,
some
you'll see, look at this
atmosphere.
one. Look at all this sand and dirt on the ground in
Yeah,
the photo.
yeah.
So then I was like, are you kidding? We spent 2 months cleaning this place, and now we're going to bring sand and dirt back in here and dump it all over everything. Anyway, but yes, and we did also shoot with a lot of fog. And so
Yeah, yeah. This was the
David
lab, but
Miscavige, at least the first few years that we built the studio, David Miscavige did not come by that
no,
often. When
no,
we
no,
first
he
built it, he
never.
kind of came by a little bit just to see. But then once we got working, he would stay away because it was
Oh yeah.
still just too dirty and smoky, and whatever was there was just too much for him to
Well,
be
also
able to deal
remember
with.
there were also people in sets that he busted out of his
That's
own
true, yeah.
organization.
The
He
whole
didn't
of
want to see
the
those
whole
people.
Yeah, the whole of the shoot crew were people that used to work for either management and had to deal with him, or used to work in
Yeah,
Religious Technology Center,
yeah.
and he
Except for
kicked out.
me, yeah, the cameraman, and
And me.
the you and the lighting guy, and like the five of us that could make
Yeah,
a
though
film
we were the
all
only
on
ones that were like
all.
organically just in the
Yeah,
cinematography
and
area. We
then
weren't.
yeah, you remember that one time everybody went to an event, and then we stayed behind and got a bunch of shots done for a big film.
Yes, it
And
was like
and
4 or 5 of us, and even that.
it turned out that we were the only ones that were actually needed to make a film because everybody else was kind of in the way. But
Yeah,
I
for
just want to
what we
point
were
out,
shooting.
yeah, I just want to point out this set was supposed to be the kind of this kind of not futuristic, but a lab where they actually put together an e-meter, like a steampunk version of an e-meter.
Yeah, in
And
the first one, we didn't have a nice lab like that. I don't think we
no, but
everything was.
yeah, no, there was absolutely,
But
no,
wasn't
there
it in a
was,
cave?
no, it was, no, it was just not as elaborate as this. I
Well,
mean,
that's what I'm saying. We didn't have any.
yeah,
This is a
no, it was,
very,
no,
very
we got,
heavily produced set.
oh yeah, I know, and there's big fans in the ceiling spinning around with light being interrupted, and there's machines everywhere. This thing was crazy, man. I would spend as much money as they would let me possibly spend. Here he is,
Which wasn't a
fashioning.
lot.
No, I mean, well, when you have a huge set shop, you have 30 people in sets and they're working for nothing,
Yeah,
you can make a film look like, multi-million dollar film, because that's just, that's the
totally.
way to
And
do it.
for one of these films, I should say this. I don't know if we've ever said this, but one of these these training films that we do, depending on the sets and the talent and all that good stuff, we could shoot it from start to finish, from pre-production to final, online edit or
Yeah.
final film answer print or whatever the end of the line was, depending on what formats and media that we were shooting on. We could shoot one of these for anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000.
Oh, sometimes 50 grand.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
but
but
the
I
50
I
grand
know
was
what you're saying.
yeah, but then I'm not including you in some of those
Yeah, no,
figures.
but they don't include me. That's a whole different thing. They don't
Yeah.
include, all labor is not in the budget.
Yeah, there's
It's
no
all
labor. Yeah, that's just
nothing.
what I was
It's
going to say.
not in the budget. It's
Out
so
of that
the
300,000, there's no labor fee. There's
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
It's only actors, and then if we need like if we need if we need animals, we need like an animal wrangler, or we have to hire what do they call it? Picture animals, whatever.
That's what they call them, picture animals.
Picture animals. Okay, so if we had to hire picture
Or a
animals,
picture car, or maybe we need some real fancy piece of equipment like a
techno
Porsche
crane,
Cayenne
or
with like a
dragon crane, or a
blah, blah,
techno
blah.
crane, or
Yeah, I mean, in the industry, they have two costs. They have above the line and below the line. And below the line are all your like your director, your script writer, all your creative stuff. Above the line, you've got all the rest of the talent, and that's like in a lot of cases, that's your biggest item. But you take that out. 'Cause
yeah.
in the gold budgets, they just completely take that out. So here's the best way to explain this: is a thing called production value, which most people don't know what that is. Most people think, like Avatar. Wow, the production value of Avatar is incredible, but actually, Avatar has zero production value because it costs $500 million to make, and it looks like it costs $500 million to make. So it's the difference between what it looks like to make and what it actually costs. That's your production value. So by that metric, Golden Productions has the greatest production value of any studio in the world because they're the only studio in the world that has managed to accumulate world-class equipment, very talented people, and they work as slaves. And that's essentially what gives you a lot of production value.
Yeah,
If you
you're
take
you're getting hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of labor and
100%.
product
Yeah, totally.
for
totally.
free. So
Yeah, so you're making a film, and Mark says $300,000. You're talking about a film that looks like it should cost $2 to $5 million. Like that's
Yeah.
an absolute fact.
and also all of the crew. So yes, you're right. So not only are we not really and the talent that we did use for the most of the time we used. For a lot of the years, we just did it under the table. It was just like we just paid day rates, just
Yeah,
very
non-union
minimal.
talent. Yeah,
Yeah, the very minimal day rate, like an $80 a day actor.
yeah,
kind
whatever
of
it was.
and then in
Well,
the
then they ran into there's issues with like California labor laws. You can't just be paying people under the table. So then they had to give them legitimate payroll, and they didn't know how to do that. And
Yeah.
because I ran my own company before I went to Gold. I had a contract with a payroll company because nobody does their own. Only big studios like Paramount or whatever do their own payroll. Everybody else, there's a bunch of payroll services in Hollywood, and
Yeah.
they help keep track of residuals and blah blah blah. So then they ran all their payroll through my company, which scared the bejesus out of me because that granted me the legal right to control the material if they weren't paying people.
Really? I didn't know that
Yeah,
that
like if
happened.
they didn't pay people, I could have said, that's mine. You can't use it. You can't play it on TV. If they didn't pay residuals to actors, then whoever did the payroll, they gained control of it, legal control of it.
Wow, I
So
didn't know
that,
that.
oh yeah, that just scared the hell out of me. So then eventually I got them. I was like, no. And then they made a deal with, I don't know, cast and crew or one of the companies to do that. And they, they run their, if it's talent payroll, which involves conforming to SAG rules or, having to do with residuals, blah, blah, blah. They have to run it through a payroll company or they're just
Yeah.
going to get, and they hate that shit because that's like so planet Earth problems. Like,
Yeah. Well,
we'll
the thing I was
just,
going to say is, so not only did we paid a decent amount for the talent, but it was the bare minimum amount that could be paid.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
but then in addition to that, not only are you getting the sets and the wardrobe and props and all that, you're getting all that free labor, but the camera crew, the lighting crew, the grip crew, anybody, including visual effects and on-set effects, all of those trades were Sea Org members. So you weren't
Right.
paying for any labor on any part of this film. And then same thing with post-production, all of the editing, all of that, the film lab. By the time we had the Cine Castle, we also had an entire film production lab that you could process film through, so that we didn't have to drive the film to Los Angeles. It could all be done at the property.
Right, and actually was done at higher quality than they do in Hollywood. So,
Well, yeah, because we were only doing our own stuff. We weren't slopping everybody else's stuff through the same
it
chemical
wasn't done
baths.
for profit, but so it was like
Yeah, it was done at a huge loss. And that is the other thing. The money that they saved was spent on a $30 million cinematography castle.
yeah, or
So.
they didn't have to spend. They had it for PIs and lawyers and
Yeah, it's
to hunt people
ridiculous.
down and like that. They don't try to get deals on that stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
I
they'll
know.
pay
It's
big
so
time for that.
it's so hypocritical. They ain't saving money on lawsuits, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy.
Is there another
So-
slide in this?
Yeah, I think there's a few of them.
Oh yeah,
this is-
look at that set. Oh, that's a two-storier.
Yeah, it was. Huge.
Is that background? Is that practical? Can you walk up there? Can people be up there?
The scaffold, yeah, there was scenes where people were working up there. So here's what happened. Around the time when we made this one,
Is that a person
some-
up there behind them? Is that a person up there?
yeah, that is somebody. That's somebody up on the catwalk. It was 100.
Wow.
I have I should converted it to an a different video.
Oh my gosh, I'm seeing what you're talking about. The ceiling is the actual catwalk.
Yeah, it's the catwalk.
The
of
ceiling
video.
is the grid where all the power and lights and everything are up there.
Right, and the floor is the cement floor in the studio. I had to polish it and put a finish on it. So that's the actual studio floor. 'Cause,
That's very cool. I like that.
Yeah, because I tried to get them not to do a cement floor because all of their staff are going to be crippled in their old age because you're not supposed to work on cement.
Oh, it was so rough
It's the
on the
worst
staff.
thing.
It was
And
so rough on the crew.
Yeah, and nobody uses cement in studios, in big studios. They use what are called live wood floors for two reasons. For one thing, and it's a very specialized way you build it so that they don't squeak. But do it for two reasons. One, just because it's better for people's health, but you can also drill into the floor because when you're putting seats down and stuff.
Yeah.
And so when you usually go to a studio, like a big studio at Warner Brothers or Paramount, the floors are just destroyed because everybody's screwing into them. And every so many years, they pull the floor up and replace it. And Gold were like, no, we can't have our floor ever look bad. Because, they were more concerned about their reputation. They're like bringing big wigs on tours.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
and so I was so pissed that they made it cement because I knew how dangerous it is for people's, their body. It's just really bad to work on cement all day long.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I used to then make them polish it and use it in the set. This is like a third of this green screen guy.
I was going to say,
it's
so this
huge.
is, so you can see here, this is not a frame that was in the film, but you can just see the crane. So you've got a crane on a dolly there, on a dolly track, and then you've got all those cyc lights against the cyc wall. at the top of the
Right.
frame, and then you've got those
Right.
those big kind of diffusion for the lights
Yeah.
up top, but that's
Speaking of
using a
saving
lot.
money, there was a big camera equipment, a crane equipment company in Hollywood, and they donated that crane. It's a really good crane. They ended up with extra equipment, and they actually donated 2 cranes to Gold.
Was that
And
Roberts?
no. This was just completely independent, nothing to do with Scientology, but it was a legitimate tax write-off for them. They needed to get rid of this equipment, and they were better off donating it to a nonprofit
Yeah.
than they were. There's nonprofit. Gold is like the only nonprofit films. So,
Yeah.
it turns out to be a good place for people to donate equipment.
To get rid of scuttlebutt
Yeah.
equipment that they don't want to keep on the books.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think you're right, Mitch. We could do a film. See, I think production-wise, we could do it for 50, but then with post-production and expend
Yeah,
all the other
yeah.
stuff, I'd say it would the lowest we did one of these for would be, I would just say all in 100,000 to like maybe
Yeah.
500. Like I think Orientation and the What is Scientology film that we shot, those were in the millions. Because
Yeah, they
it
cost
was
a lot of
all post-production in Los Angeles.
Yeah, a
All
lot
the
of stuff,
processing
yeah.
was in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
All the, there was a reshoot after reshoot after reshoot. The sets were big. We were renting studios in Los Angeles to shoot Orientation. We were renting studios to do the
that
What
was
is Science.
expensive.
So those, in the early days, we were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars just because we couldn't do it all in-house. We had to hire out stages and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but yeah, this is a good example of a very large set that we'd have in there. And I'm gonna guess just from what I can see right here, this is taking up about half of the studio, if not a
No.
little bit more.
Not even a quarter.
No.
Well, no, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Let me just
Look how far
reframe.
back we are.
No, I'm saying if you're considering the foreground sand and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at the little set there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
That's
right.
that's about half, maybe.
Yeah,
I'd say
about
around half because you're using the whole of the psych wall. The psych wall does take up about maybe a quarter itself.
Yeah, but I was looking at where the camera is, and so I was not considering where the camera is.
Either way, this is a
But
big.
obviously, yeah.
This is a
big.
big set for that studio. You're not going to be able to squeeze another 10 sets in there with this
Yeah, I
puppy
think
in there.
we have some more. So yeah, I
Okay.
didn't edit these.
Oh yeah,
this
look
was-
at that. Oh
this
yeah,
was a
that's
little-
steampunk galore,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
Look
we-
at these guys, the goggles. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
so this
it's a
was a
good
little
thing
cost-
steampunk came back in. It would be a lot easier to put this together.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't really edit these, but we had a really interesting looking. These were all actors we brought in from LA.
So none of these are
original-
Scientologist actors.
No, but see the guy, the bald guy with the long hair.
Yeah.
In the previous version, that was Jeff Hawkins played that part.
Oh yeah,
Remember
that's
Jeff?
right, Jeff.
Remember? Yeah.
That's right. So in the first time, this film was shot 2 times because obviously Isaac Hayes is no longer around.
No,
and
but remember Isaac's shots was only him. So we
That's
were able
true.
to keep all of his shots and scan them at very high resolution digital.
oh, they
We shot it-
they recycled
well,
those.
we kept it, yeah, because it was shot at 35 millimeters, so it was super high quality.
Oh, okay.
So we were, and plus it was timeless. I mean, it happened nowhere.
That's
So-
true. But the kid Johnny, because he unalived himself and
Yeah.
another person, we can't leave him in a Scientology film.
Right.
So, and he's in pretty much every single shot of the film without the shots without Isaac.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so then you guys had to
Let's just
reshoot it. I would go on to guess that would be the main reason this had to be reshot was because of John.
No, that was the only reason.
Okay, there you
And
go.
we were all rejoicing that we could keep Isaac because I mean his shots were a trend.
That's true. I didn't think about that because his shots are all standalone.
Yeah.
And they were all highly, by the time we cut all the things together to make it sound like he did the lines correctly. There was a lot of audio editing. If he wasn't on screen, it was one of those things that we were using golden era AI, which is where you just take it's like Sal and Richard from the Howard Stern show. They just take a person talking and they just cut the individual words out in the audio and then piece those together.
They got really good at that. It was
they did. Well, I mean, the audio editing crew at Golden Era Productions, they'd been editing L. Ron Hubbard for decades and using words that he said wrong or mispronounced. They'd steal a word from another lecture. They'd cut out, farts and burps, and sometimes they'd cut out both of those at the same time, which, if you don't know, that is called a double flute salute. Or if you listen to the Your Mom's House podcast, it's I think it's called a double pipe classic. But either way, but if you're in the military, like L. Ron Hubbard
next time,
was,
could you just put those terms up on the screen?
If you're in the military, a double pipe classic is called a dual flute salute. So that's the only difference. If you're a civilian and you fart and burp at the same time, that's a double pipe classic. I just wanted to explain the difference. But what my point is that they were good at cutting up these words and replacing and stuff like that. So that's how we ended up getting the Isaac Hayes dialogue to work. And yes, there were a lot of children in this film. In both films, we had children.
Because we needed extras. What kind of a civilization would it be without children? Well, that's called the Sea Org, I think.
We actually I want to say we got kids from the ranch when we did the first one.
Probably.
Because the ranch, I think, was still around in 99 or 2000, around the time we shot this.
If you kids who were at the ranch were in the film and are no longer in Scientology, give us a shout.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Love to talk to you. So, this was me. I think I was hiding my cell phone in my coat when I was doing this.
And you were just like, do.
We found the world's cutest little blonde girl. Okay, that's the end of those pictures. So.
Awesome. And then this also was I think we told a story about when we were shooting in the desert in Brawley, California. When we
is it called Brawley?
It's outside of Brawley. It's called the Sand Dunes, but I think it's called the Brawley Sand Dunes.
No, it's called Imperial Dunes.
Imperial Dunes, and it's right outside of Brawley, California.
Yeah, it's where they shot Stargate.
Okay.
Because
anyway, the
Lucas
trailer
was smart enough to go to Africa to shoot. If you're shooting.
Well, when the trailer that we were shooting in the middle of the desert in the Imperial Dunes in California was the TR5 trailer. So all those people that we were marching across the desert were wearing the same outfits, a lot of the same kind of types of outfits. These people, except they had a lot of, what do you call them, shawls or... They had a lot of capes that were covering their body.
Yeah, they looked like a nomadic tribe that was traveling across the desert.
But it was a little bit of steampunky mixed in with it.
Yeah, but what ended up happening was, as much as we got in, and as much as we struggled to get the shots of the caravan of people, we never used them. We just used the solo shots of Johnny marching through the dunes, struggling to hike through the dunes. So after all of that, after you being almost jailed by the Bureau of Land Management,
sitting in the back of a BLM cop car with handcuffs on.
You can't really say BLM anymore. You have to say the whole thing because
Bureau of Land Management.
Yeah, you have to say people BLM down there.
Oh, that's true. There's another. Yeah. There was another BLM. There was only one BLM back then.
Yeah, back then, but now there's two. So,
Anyway.
That was
So that was I'm trying to think if there was anything else. We did the Isaac stuff, we did Tommy Davis, we covered Johnny, we covered the trailer. That's pretty much all the stuff we did.
Hold on, but no, there's this one other thing. I don't totally remember it. The one thing is that one of the main principles that the film was pushing was this idea of these three laws of auditing, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
And basically there's this book, I believe it's called The Dynamics of Life.
That's right. That is the book that this is sort of based, that he uses. I think he uses that book as his sort of blueprint.
He holds it up, and then he opens it up and he reads it, and he shows us these three laws. And these three laws, this makes no sense. Basically, it says the auditor, meaning, the counselor, that their reactive mind is bigger than the pre-clear, the person being audited, bigger than their reactive mind. And so the idea is that somehow this is broken into three laws, but the concluding law is that the auditor plus the PC are bigger than the PC's reactive mind.
That's right. Auditor plus PC is bigger than the bank.
Yeah, and this is the reason why you have to have an auditor, why you can't audit yourself. But wait a minute, you do audit yourself in Scientology. So
this was written before Hubbard came up with that part.
Yeah, solo auditing, which was
or who knows. That's the other thing about some of these films is sometimes these films become a policy in Scientology because it's not covered anywhere else in a policy.
Right.
But these were written by L. Ron Hubbard, so they have the power of an L. Ron Hubbard policy on how to do something, and they also have the policy of an L. Ron Hubbard bulletin, which talks about the Scientology technology of auditing or counseling or training or whatever.
Like elastic team tactics.
Yeah, so there was a lot of times where someone would be like, well, what's that per? And he'd be like, oh, it's per this film. And you'd be like, well, you have to show me the film. I'm like, no, you have to figure out how to watch the film. I don't have to show you nothing. Yeah. I already know what it says. But you want to see if there's any questions in here?
Oh yeah,
please. We've even got somebody who was there when we shot it.
Yeah, I saw that. You have to do that.
From Amy Scobie. So Amy Scobie has a channel here, SPTV Nation, and Queen Bee, SP. Anyway, Amy Scobie was in the International Management Bureau of Scientology, and her job was to oversee the Celebrity Center. So when Isaac Hayes is arguably like one of the top 10 Scientologists, celebrities and Scientologists at the time. So if he's coming to the property with Tommy Davis, a Celebrity Center Seward member, then that's Amy's territory.
Yeah,
so
I don't know, just one little thing. I don't know if we made it clear, but any interaction with Scientology celebrities, no matter what it was, any official kind of interaction, all had to go through the president's office at Celebrity Center, and Amy was over Celebrity Center. So.
Yeah. So this one says, I was there when Isaac shot this, saying Earth is not necessarily the most inhabited planet in the universe, but he kept saying inhibited instead. Yeah, it was like those. It's so funny that you say that, Amy, because we mentioned the contractions like let us and let's, but that was another one. He would just transpose a single letter in some of these words, but it would completely change the meaning of the sentence. To swap that letter. So it was, instead of saying Earth is not necessarily the most inhabited planet, to say Earth is not necessarily the most inhibited planet in the universe. That's a totally different thing. And so that sentence we'd have to reshoot. And he would literally go inhabited, 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 and we'd be okay, reset, inhabited, 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 inhabited. He would just be saying that over and over.
Yeah, and then we'd all stop and in unison. We'd turn and look at Tommy.
Yeah,
like WTF, dude.
That's right. You didn't catch that he had been saying inhibited on the plane.
In first class?
You know, Tommy was sleeping and Isaac was sleeping. That's exactly what they were doing. We all knew. We're like, you really are working lines on a red eye? You slept. You both slept. Just say you both slept. Why pretend? Anyway, but yeah, and then he would say inhibited, or inhabited, and then we'd be like, okay, everybody set, okay, and it was also, we're not moving. There was a crane move on Isaac for a lot of these shots, but some were locked off. But for the most part, it was a pretty straightforward shot for us to do. So we would do it so many times, we'd get it. But Isaac, and then we'd go, okay, good, okay, good, take 3. And then he would go, Earth is not necessarily the most inhibited planet, and be like, cut, and be like,
in the universe.
And we'd be like, dude, we're going to be here. And literally the crew were just like, we're going to get so busted. We're going to be here.
Oh yeah, because eventually everybody would be in trouble.
Yeah,
Everybody.
it was just like, what are you doing? It's 3 pages of dialogue. And be like, yeah, we're doing it a sentence at a time, and it's taking 4 hours a sentence. Thank you for that, Amy. Joanna Arcana, that is a lot of gold spray paint. Yes. If you were in the costumes, or what was called the wardrobe department, silver and gold spray paint were your best friends, and dulling spray. Stephen Britton, these are training films. Yes, these are internal training films, either designated by a TR before them, the number, or an EM. If it's a TR, it's a training routine film, and if it's a EM, it's an E-meter training film.
Did you see Mark Catherine Olson? She put the actual three laws in there.
Oh, she did? Oh, let me
Yeah,
look.
she actually put them. Thank you.
Wow, look at
that.
this. I don't even know how these guys are. Where? Okay, let me look. I'm looking now. Looking at Queen Bee. Is it? What's the timestamp?
It would be 4:06 your time.
I found it. There it is. Yeah. So Catherine Olson, thank you for that, Catherine. Mitch, the reactive mind is greater than the PC. The reactive mind is greater than the auditor. But auditor plus PC is greater than the reactive mind. Yeah, that's exactly.
You see how that binds these two people together. Like, you can't audit without somebody else. So you really need this other person. There's this great scene where there's these two kind of indigenous people on this planet. And for some reason, they have to pick up a huge boulder. Remember that? And one guy is struggling to do it, can't pick it up.
That's right.
This other guy comes up, and between the two of them.
That's right. That's how they give it. That's the analogy,
right.
Or whatever.
Two people. I mean, come on, it's common sense. Two people, in some cases, could get more done than one person. But that's kind of, it's like that's kind of the whole point of the thing.
Yeah, Riley Reed Slatkin, a.k.a. C.O. Bilf, says, Isaac Hayes and Tommy Davis, I am surprised the cool-uncool polarization on that plane did not cause some sort of cataclysmic rift in space-time. Yeah, that's super funny. Tommy Davis is sort of, he kind of carried himself like he was a cool cucumber. But he was wearing these like expensive Italian shirts, suits, and. But even with all that, Tommy Davis brought in about 5% cool compared to Isaac. Isaac had. Isaac was overflowing with cool.
Plus Tom couldn't ever get that indent out of his lip from the silver spoon.
Yeah,
born with, and he was a little kind of try to hide it.
Yeah,
it was always there.
It's funny when Tommy Davis was at the Ant Base. I always considered him like a punk ass kid. Like, oh, he's this punk ass kid.
Yeah, what's he doing here?
From Celebrity Center, but it was always sort of like, oh, Tommy Davis, this kid. And then I would always refer to him as a kid. Like the entire time I was there, he acted like a child. And
I cast it. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I have a funny story about Tommy, but
regardless, somebody pointed out to me at some point, just like a handful of years ago from now, saying, "I think Tommy Davis might be older than you," and I was like, "What?" And I think he might actually be. I don't know. I've never looked it up. I'm going to look it up right now while we're sitting here. But I don't even know if you can find him. Tommy Davis, Scientology. Does he have a Wikipedia? Oh, he does actually.
Absolutely. He was the
He is older than me. Tommy Davis is older than me. Yeah.
That's crazy.
He is a year older than me.
He was a total punk.
He acted like such a little punk ass bitch the entire time I was in the Sea Org that I always was like, this little punk ass kid. And then when they told me, I'm pretty sure he's older than you, I was like, there's no way. And sure enough, there you go. He is.
Mark, did he ever have a actual post title?
Yeah, he was the vice president for Celebrity Center. That was his.
I mean, when we used to see him up at Gold.
I think he was the vice president for Celebrity Center when he was at Gold, or he was there was some sort of wrangler post that was in the president's office that he might have had. And then he maybe became the vice president of Celebrity Center.
Yeah,
When
no,
he
Catherine-
became the
Catherine,
international spokesperson, he was the
Right.
international spokesperson of Scientology. Whether I don't know what
Yeah,
that was
somehow-
internally.
Yeah, look at this. There's another comment from Catherine Wilson, 412 your
Yeah.
time. She's right about this because
What time?
It's about the same time. About 412. So 12 your time. She's absolutely right about this. I don't know where Catherine got all of her data. It must be because she was in data, but she's right about this. Tommy, he went up when he was put in charge of PR for Scientology. He was in IMPR, International Management PR. Thank you for that, Catherine.
Yeah. Well, that's when.
Because he dumped his lovely wife. Remember, he was married to this really very sweet girl from Brussels. You might not have known this because you were trapped up at the base.
No, I'm going to say that this all happened. Nadine was her name.
Nadine, right.
Yes. She
wasn't qualified for the base, so his perfect little Sea Org wife, he's like, later, we're no longer married. And he went up to the base, and then he married Jessica Fishback.
Yeah, that all took place after I left. So I didn't.
Okay.
I left in January 2005. He, I think I want to say in 2004 is when Nadine got in trouble.
Was that what it was?
I'm not even going to say
I always
because
picked her, but
unfortunately, sometimes the information that I have came from when a person gets interrogated, what's called a security check.
Right.
And then that data is told to another Sea Org member, and then that just becomes like the Sea Org's People magazine. And so you hear things about different people. No, that is the Sea Org People magazine are called Sec Check Knowledge Reports. That's a Sea Org People magazine.
Oh, cool.
And that's where you find out what stuff Mitch did. That's where you find out what stuff Tommy Davis did, because David Miscavige just reads these things out at meetings. Like, he likes to know the little picadillos or whatever you call it of the people that get interrogated in Scientology.
Right.
So I know that Tommy Davis got in trouble for some stuff. Really, the thing that I was told Tommy Davis got in trouble for was thinking he was Tom Cruise. So he was working as Tom Cruise's handler, and he would basically he would dress like, he'd get the same glasses as Tom. He'd dress like Tom.
Right.
He would be like a little mini Tom Cruise.
Yeah, and his wife was Katie's handler, Jessica.
And his wife was Katie Holmes's handler.
Right.
And so what I was hearing was that Tommy was becoming more and more powerful just from his connection to Tom Cruise. And then he was also, spending money on suits and watches. And he was sort of becoming his own celebrity in Scientology to the point where it was pissing off Tom Cruise.
Right.
Like,
Really?
What are you doing? Like, you're like my flunky Scientology assistant. You're not me,
Right.
you know?
And Tom is being given, which he was and is given, free cars and pairs from BMW because he has a product placement deal in Mission Impossible. So they're just constantly, Dave used to say, hey, Tom just got a pair of 850s. You want to borrow one for the weekend? I'm like, no, because I don't want to bring it back with a scratch. But then Tommy's showing up with the same cars that his dad's bought him, that Tom Cruise is being given in free in movies. So it's kind of like, wait a minute, you need to be driving a Volkswagen, not a better car than mine. So I could see how that would be true.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question. When did Jason leave?
When did Jason leave Scientology?
Yeah.
I want to say that
the YouTube thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that was 2007-ish, 2006, 2007-ish.
Yeah, because Tommy was definitely up there when that happened. Because I remember right after the Jason went on YouTube and did his whole thing, right?
Yeah, we gotta save this for another video because
but we will.
I'm trying.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you this, people. If you want Jason Begay on this channel, on the Blown for Good channel, you're gonna have to hit up Jason on social media, on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, wherever you see Jason Begay in social media. You need to hit him up and say you need to go on SPTV on the BFG channel. because
with Mitch and Mark.
with Mitch and Mark, yeah, because it's gonna be kind of hard for me to. I'm good friends with Jason, and that's sort of, I want to say, if you're like a celebrity and you have, and somebody else does something in the YouTube world, it's sort of like not the most. I think it's a little gauche of me to be like, hey, can you come on my channel? So it's a weird thing, and I've never actually asked Jason to do anything like that. Right. So I have spoken to him. He knows Mitch and I are doing this series, and he may or may not have watched some of them. But so yeah, we'll see if we can get Jason on here.
He was one of the only actors. I mean, the last time I talked to him was a story we'll tell later. At some of the time was when Tommy Davis walked up to me and said, "The boss," which people called him Scavenge, which was really, really disgusting. He wants you to call Jason because you guys are friends, and he's rumored to be going on the Today Show with the interview with Matt Lauer, and we want you to call him. The boss wants you to call him and talk him out of it, right? So, and he hands me a recording device. I want you to record the phone call. Blah 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 blah. I'll tell you the whole story. I'll tell you right now, I did not record the phone call.
Yeah.
For two reasons. One is illegal, and the other was I still consider Jason my friend, even though he left, because I didn't give a shit that he left and spoke out about Scientology. That's his right to do so. So I just had to be quiet about that. So, but anyway, yeah, that's what we'll do that sometime.
Nice. Hannah Reynolds says, well, now I know why so many ex-COS people are gingers. They were actively recruited by Mitch's films. Yeah, there were a lot of ginger. This had a high ginger content.
No, but that kid, no, I don't think that had anything to do with it, because we did so much stuff with, L. Ron Hubbard throughout his life. I have some.
Oh, skills. That's true. Well, that's true. Yeah. L. Ron Hubbard was a ginger. So the gingers are already like, oh, that's my guy.
Yeah, but we didn't ever. I never remember casting somebody because they were a ginger like L. Ron.
Oh, I know, but Lee Purcell, ginger.
Yeah, but
we showed a bunch of gingers in these pictures.
Really, I didn't notice. But some of the people thought that the kid, maybe he wasn't a ginger. The star.
No, but some of these other look, these people, they got all kinds of gingerness in here. Look at this. Let's see.
I guess he does look like a ginger there.
Yeah, he does with that lighting, and also the gal looks like a ginger.
No, you're right. Right, maybe Hubbard. Never mind.
Yeah, come on, dude.
Yeah, no.
Johnny didn't look that gingery.
No, Johnny was blonde.
Yeah,
but
either way,
why they did this? This is weird. Okay.
Yeah, got some high ginger content there.
Yeah, it is. No, you're right. You're right. Looks like a copper tone ad.
Okay, this is the last one we got. It's from Riley Reed Slatkin, a.k.a. C.O. Bilf. Full OTs do not have asthma. Yeah, tell that to David Miscavige. David Miscavige has an oxygen tank under his desk. Yeah, no. Let me just look through the comments in here. Denver Stevo. Let's get Jason Begay here. If not for Mark and Mitch, let's do it for Denver Stevo. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Way to get the troops behind you there, Denver. Catherine Olson says, Mark, you're crazy about gingers too. Nah, just one in particular. That's all. Well, I'm not really a big fan of Hubtard. But yeah, there are a lot of gingers floating around. There's a thing about gingers being a recessive, is it called a recessive gene?
Yeah.
I don't think that's true. I think I see a lot of gingers. I see way more than this recessive gene propaganda they're trying to spread around. I call them daywalkers. They steal souls. If you haven't seen the South Park episode about gingivitis, you need to get on that. Anyway, let's do. Make sure we take care of all the. If you're watching on the Blown for Good channel. Head on over to Mitch's channel at Scientology, The Big Lie. I saw that new trailer for your book.
Oh yeah, I did a cover reveal. Yeah, it's good.
Yes, huh? Very cool. Yeah, very cool. If you haven't seen it, go over to Mitch's channel. There's a trailer, a cover reveal. Yeah. For Mitch's book, Scientology, The Big Lie, how he made the evil cult look good. Is that what it is? Is that what the tagline?
You got it.
Okay, perfect.
How I made an evil cult look good. That's very good, Mark. I also have the merch store is live, and
Nice.
it hasn't shown up on YouTube yet because I need to make sure that I'm not, making something weird, trying to sell it on there something weird.
Yes, they want to make sure there's no scams in there. But yeah, if you haven't subscribed to Mitch's channel, head on over
thank
there
you for
and
subscribing, by the way.
like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Yeah, it says Mark probably sees lots of gingers as he looks for them. No, I don't look for them. They do stand out though, and I have a little chest plate to make sure they can't steal my soul if I get near them. And my kids know to cover their souls if we see them, like in the supermarket or in the mall or something. My children know how to be prepared. Anyway, yeah, check out Mitch's channel. And what are we going to do next? What film do you want to do next, Mitch? Let's give everybody an idea. Which one should we do? We did EM8. We did.
I'm trying to think which ones we have. Let me look at the note here.
Yeah, we've got a bunch left, guys, and we've been covering them. We've been chunking through them. But I'm trying to think of another one. I want to save the ones that we could, if we could possibly get Jason on here. We will do. There's one or two films that we could cover with him that he had like a major part in, like he was the main star of.
Yeah, well, one he did. He stars throughout the whole film, which is The Session.
Yeah, TR-13.
TR-13, The Session, and then another one, EM1, Man the Unfathomable.
Yeah.
It's one of the words you have to say slowly, or you'll never say it right.
There was a picture you sent me. God, I wish I had it. We'll show it. Well, I promise we'll show it on the next film or the next video we do. When we did a film, when we finished all of the films. When we did, so there's all these TR films and there's all these EM films that L. Ron Hubbard wrote. And in the history of Scientology, no one had ever produced all of them. And that was our job, was to produce all of the technical training films and get them all done, just as L. Ron Hubbard had directed. And when we did that, we got a big award, and we got given...
bunch of shit.
We got given a bunch of swag. We got big. We spent decades producing these films. They gave us a $300 jacket, and on the jacket, depending on how many films you'd worked on, you got a patch.
Right.
And the funny thing about that TR-13 film is when I escaped, they kept my jacket with all my patches, and I had worked on every single film.
You were one of the only people that got more than a few patches.
I had worked on every single film, either as an actor, as a manufacturing, or as the shoot crew chief, or as the pre-production director, or as the producer. In some way or another, I had worked on just about every single film. And they kept my jacket and all my patches, but one of the patches was messed up, and so I got a replacement patch for that film, and it was TR-13, and somehow I have that patch to this day. I still have the patch, but Mitch has a photo of all of the patches.
I do.
For all the films.
This is the one. This is the. Well, it's not going to get close enough to be. Oh, it's going to be by my face.
Yeah, which one's that?
That's the one for the film we did tonight. That's white
TR-5. Yes.
Yeah, white TRs. And then this is the one for
TR-13. Yeah, that's the one I have.
Yeah. I have them all here. Yay!
Oh my goodness. Anyway, we'll show those, and maybe we could do.
There, right?
Let's maybe do a picture, an ECU of each one, and then that way we can really get some detail on them.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Some of them are hideous.
Extreme close-up for you not in the industry. ECU is extreme close-up. That's a tone scale.
I'm going to wear my jacket. I'll wear it next time.
Yeah.
Because I have my jacket.
But it doesn't have the patch? It doesn't have any patches sewn on it?
No, because I thought it looked really tacky.
Yeah, well, if I would have thought the same, I'd have all the patches and no jacket. But I don't have the jacket, and I don't have the patches.
It's a nice jacket if you like Letterman jackets. Again,
I have the exact same one, but a Depeche Mode one.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, that I had custom made for myself.
Yeah, I
when
mean, I
was-
wasted 30 years of my life, and I got this lousy jacket. So
That's a good thing. I mean, it's better than
Yeah.
nothing. They took all my photos. They took all my stuff. They
Yeah.
took anything that had anything to do with Scientology. They kept that, and they sent me all the other stuff. But for some
Yeah.
weird reason, they sent me this single patch by itself. I was like, oh, what's this? I didn't even know I had this.
Who sent
Anyway.
it to you?
That's enough. It's been an hour and a half. We need to end this thing.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you guys for joining us. If you haven't liked and subscribed, that would really help us out and get this out to more people. We will figure out what our next film is, and we will get that one going. And then tomorrow, if you're watching this live, it's the beginning of November, and we are doing a bunch of videos tomorrow, which is Friday, and we're doing a bunch of videos on Saturday because that's when they're going to have this big Scientology event and also a Scientology protest in England at the Advanced Organization of St. Hill in United Kingdom. So more to come.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
There'll be all kinds of excitement happening with that. And there might even be some OSA nonsense that might happen. I'm pretty sure there's going to be nonsense. If it's OSA or just Scientology, regular old, plain old Scientology nonsense, there will be nonsense. I guarantee you. And we'll tell you about it. So thanks for joining us. Thanks to everybody who's here till the very end. And we will see you next time.